They skipped my baby's funeral to sip cocktails on a cruise. That day, I decided they were dead to me too. I grew up as Elle, in a modest community near Denver, Colorado, where crimson rooftops nestled among tall pine trees and afternoons in summer were always bright with golden sun. From a very young age, I looked up to my older sister, Haley, seeing her almost as a hero. Haley, who is 4 years my senior, always seemed to glow, whether on the school's basketball court or at our family gatherings. I often wished to be like her, to be appreciated, recognized, and called the best little sister ever. Whenever Haley chose a new outfit, I would quietly ask Mom for something similar, even if sometimes Mom would decline because funds were tight. When Haley started learning to sketch, I would sit and try to draw as well, even though I couldn't grasp why the pencil kept slipping from my grasp. I mimicked how she styled her hair, the way she smiled, and even the names she gave her stuffed animals. Yet, the more I tried to connect, the colder her expression grew towards me. Haley never viewed me as an ally or a younger sibling to safeguard. In her perception, I was like a shadow, a presence always trailing her and making her feel threatened. Despite my longing for just one kind remark from her, what I received was her contemptuous look and those half-joking, half-mean comments that truly stung. "Do you honestly believe you can achieve that?" Haley once scoffed when I displayed my messy drawing. When she won a running event or brought home a dance trophy, she would display it before me and taunt, "Would you dare to attempt it? I bet you lack the courage." I didn't get angry. I simply embraced her tightly and murmured, "You're incredible. I'm so proud of you." But instead of being pleased, she pushed me away, once so forcefully that I landed on the floor, my body aching. My 10th birthday marked the moment my early years fractured. That year, Mom and Dad had saved for half a year to purchase something I had yearned for, a shimmering purple bicycle with bright streamers on the handlebars and a charming little bell. When I unwrapped it, I shrieked with delight and hurried upstairs to call Haley. I eagerly led her to the backyard, my eyes gleaming. "Do you want to be the first to try it? I'll let you go first." Haley gazed at me, her dark brown eyes reflecting something I couldn't interpret. Then she smiled, a smile that, looking back now, felt colder than the winter breeze. "I want to try it on the street out front. It'll be easier to ride." I always trusted her. I helped her wheel the bike to the street, my heart thumping with happiness. But instead of mounting the seat, Haley suddenly lifted the bicycle high and flung it hard into the middle of the road. There was the shriek of brakes, followed by a loud crash as a truck's tires rolled over it. I stood motionless, watching as fragments of metallic purple scattered across the pavement. The streamers torn, the wheels mangled, the bell flattened beyond recognition. Haley folded her arms and shrugged. "Oh, my apologies. I guess I slipped." My heart shattered along with that cherished bike. Tears streamed, but I didn't dare to sob. I looked into her eyes and, for the first time, no longer saw the hero I had once revered. My sister, the one I had longed to emulate, had transformed my bright birthday into a nightmare I would never forget. From that instant, I ceased sharing any joy or aspirations with her. And perhaps that was the day my early life quietly ended forever. From that 10th birthday, with my bicycle ruined before my eyes, I learned a lesson no child should have to grasp so soon. Some beautiful things, if revealed, will be mercilessly destroyed by others. So, I stopped displaying any accomplishment, no matter how minor, and kept my moments of happiness quietly to myself. When I received my first A in advanced mathematics, I quickly closed my notebook and tucked it into my bag as if concealing a shameful secret. When a drawing of mine was praised by my teacher and displayed on the school bulletin board, I quietly took the longer route, so I wouldn't have to see it. My parents were too occupied with their hospital shifts, Mom was a nurse, and Dad worked in the emergency room, to notice any certificates or small medals. And as long as Haley didn't hear about or see anything, she had no reason to mock or ruin it. I believed I had learned how to safeguard myself. But when I was 13, during the school's spring cross-country race, everything unraveled again. Running was my passion. It made me feel unrestrained, as if the wind was lifting me, as if I could leave all my sorrow behind. I spent months training, waking early to run in the park, telling myself I was running for myself, not for anyone's approval. But when I crossed the finish line first and heard the cheers, I couldn't contain my pride. I had done it. The award ceremony was held in the schoolyard. My parents had taken time off their shifts to come. They even brought Haley. I looked at her, hope in my eyes. Perhaps this time she would be proud, would genuinely congratulate me. My name echoed over the loudspeaker. I stepped onto the podium, my heart pounding as I received the gleaming silver medal. But at that exact moment, a shout rang out from the audience. "Haley, what's wrong?" All eyes turned to her. Haley stumbled, then collapsed on the steps. My parents rushed to her side. Teachers and friends crowded around. The ceremony stopped immediately. all attention on my sister. The metal hanging around my neck suddenly felt as if it had turned to ice, immobilizing me. Her face was the same as ever, but now I saw it through different eyes. The same forced smile, her eyes blinking as if she were feigning weakness. Probably just low blood sugar. "Don't worry about me," Haley said softly. But I could see the faint curl of her lips as Mom cried while helping her up. The ceremony didn't continue. My medal, my triumph, vanished into the worried crowd for the brave girl who nearly fainted at her little sister's big moment. On the way home, my parents kept fussing over Haley, anxious about every little thing. I sat in the back seat, clutching the hem of my shirt, staring out the window as the green fields sped by. From that day on, I locked every bit of pride deep inside. Anything that made me happy, a high-scoring essay, a praised drawing, a correct answer in class, I kept just for myself. I avoided compliments in front of Haley, avoided even my parents' gaze when they happened to inquire about school. I was afraid that with just one careless word, Haley would find a way to destroy it, just like she once ruined my dream bicycle, just like she crushed my moment of glory on the winner's podium. When I was 17, Denver's winter was so cold that even my breath formed mist before me. But my heart burned with joy as I held the letter from Columbia, the Ivy League school I had only dared to imagine. My hands trembled as I opened it. My eyes blurred at the words, "We are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted." After so many years, I finally felt secure enough to let that happiness show. I carefully folded the letter and went downstairs to find my parents. In the warm kitchen, glowing under the yellow lights, they were preparing dinner. I got into Columbia, my voice cracked with emotion. My mom turned, eyes wide. "Really? Oh my goodness, Elle. That's amazing." My dad came over and hugged me tightly. That moment brought a sense of unity I hadn't felt in years. Laughter and congratulations filled our small house. I looked around and didn't see Haley. A part of me felt relieved because of that. That night, for once, I enjoyed my meal without worrying about anyone's watchful eyes. I told myself this time, Haley wouldn't be able to ruin the happiness I truly deserved. But the next morning, my mom's urgent voice called up from downstairs. "Elle, get up quickly. Your sister just shared bad news." I went down and saw Haley curled up on the sofa, her eyes red, her hair hanging loosely on both sides of her face. Beside her was a stack of papers I couldn't quite discern. "Mom, what's happening?" Mom choked up. "The doctor said Haley has stage 3 ovarian cancer. She needs us by her side." The room seemed to spin before my eyes. I looked at Haley. Her eyes met mine, and I saw it. That familiar glint, cold and triumphant, flashed for a second before sinking into her sorrowful act. "Elle, let your sister have your room so she can rest," my dad said, his voice filled with worry. Without waiting for my answer, he turned and went upstairs to start packing up my things. My body felt rooted to the spot as I forced down the lump in my throat. That night, I packed my books and papers into 2 suitcases. My once familiar bedroom became Haley's new domain. I moved down to the basement, cold and damp, a space that used to be for old storage. I lay on the fold-out bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, my mind in turmoil. The same question ran through my head repeatedly. Is this real? Haley was such a convincing actress that I began to question myself. By day, she walked slowly, complained of fatigue, her face pale. By night, I heard soft music from her room, quiet laughter, the clacking of laptop keys as if she were chatting with someone. One night, I saw her by the window on the phone with someone, her voice cheerful, nothing like the tired voice she had during the day. I started paying closer attention. By chance, I saw her post photos on a secondary social media account, her hair flowing in the wind, her smile radiant. Just days before, she claimed she was starting chemo, but I didn't have proof strong enough to confront the family. My parents, heartbroken by the grim news, did everything Haley needed. Mom gave up her night shifts. Dad took leave from work. The entire house revolved around the patient. I was left on the sidelines. My Columbia dream faded as each night I was left alone in that freezing basement corner, staring at blurry pages under a dim light. I told myself I had to find the truth because this time I couldn't let Haley destroy everything. I couldn't let my years-long dream crumble under the weight of one of her cruel plays. In the weeks that followed, our small house became a revolving door of visitors, not inquiring about my college aspirations, but coming to see the brave girl, Haley. Friends, neighbors, even distant relatives came bearing flowers, gifts, and comforting words. And me? I was like a shadow, quietly tucked in a corner, watching my sister absorb the attention as if that were the real medicine she craved. And then, just as I had suspected, Haley decided to host a party to honor her courage, right at our house. She invited nearly everyone we knew, from old classmates to mom and dad's colleagues, to people we'd only seen once or twice at past Christmas parties. My mom busied herself preparing trays of food, while Dad decorated the backyard with warm yellow string lights. I stood watching, my fists clenched, my heart aching as I saw the large banner they'd hung high. Haley, a symbol of strength and hope. The party began at dusk, the setting sun casting a red glow across the yard. People ate, laughed, gathered around Haley like bees drawn to honey. My sister, in a simple white dress, her bald head elegantly wrapped in a silk scarf, moved between tables with a gentle smile and grateful eyes. But I knew the truth behind that perfect facade. I had seen the photos she quietly posted on a backup account, her long, glossy hair intact, and heard the bursts of laughter during her late-night phone calls. I couldn't let this charade continue. Tonight, I had to put a stop to it. As everyone raised their glasses in a toast, I lifted my soda, tapped it lightly to draw attention. I think tonight, the person we've gathered to honor deserves a few words, I said, keeping my voice steady. All eyes turned to Haley. She hesitated briefly before offering a modest smile. Oh, Elle, you don't need to do that. I just want everyone to have a good time. But applause rose, encouraging her to speak. Haley stood, adjusted her scarf, took a deep breath, and began the speech, the same speech I had heard her practice in front of the mirror countless times. Her voice trembled at first, then grew confident, even slipping in a few charming jokes that made the crowd laugh. I waited patiently, every word like a knife twisting in my heart. Just as the speech reached its peak, I stepped forward and hugged her. She stiffened in surprise, and in that moment, my hand gently lifted the scarf, pulling off the wig with it. Haley's long brown hair tumbled down, shining under the lights, so beautiful that the whole crowd fell silent. The whispers began to rise. My mom covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes wide in disbelief. My dad stayed motionless, as if carved from stone. But I didn't stop. I turned toward the large screen in the corner of the yard where I had secretly connected my laptop that afternoon. I played the video. Haley standing in front of her bedroom mirror, rehearsing over and over the tearful speech she had just delivered. In the video, there was no sign of fatigue, only a mischievous glint in her eye and a triumphant smile each time she emphasized a word to make it sound emotional. The party's atmosphere froze. Then suddenly, Haley's sobs rang out, loud and full of pain. You hate me that much, Elle? You want to humiliate me in front of everyone? You're jealous because you can't stand me getting attention, right? My mom turned to me, wiping away tears. Elle, what's wrong with you? How could you be so cruel? My dad shook his head, his disappointed gaze heavy on me. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I never thought Elle would do something like this. I stood silent, feeling as if the world was turning its back on me, even though the truth was right there for all to see. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning, and I had to find a way to prove it, no matter what it cost me. After that pivotal party, I thought I had exposed Haley's act, that it would all end there. But no, that was just the start of a long nightmare my sister orchestrated, more cunning and vicious than ever before. The next morning, the house was filled with tense silence. I hoped my parents would begin to doubt her, but that hope vanished quickly when Mom came down from Haley's room holding a thick stack of papers, her hands trembling. Look, these are all the medical records. The hospital confirmed everything. You wronged your sister. I stared at the stack. Test results, appointment schedules, prescriptions, confirmation letters from the local hospital, the stamps, the signatures. Everything looked so complete. I couldn't believe it. I tried to stay calm, examined each page carefully, but they were either real or forged so perfectly that no ordinary eye could detect it. Haley lay on the sofa, her hair tied back, her face pale, her eyes filled with both sorrow and reproach as she whispered, "You've hurt me more than the illness itself. You don't understand how tired I am." Mom hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face, and Dad shook his head, sighing heavily at me, disappointment in his eyes. I understood. From that moment, I was seen as heartless, as the daughter who no longer had compassion. I tried to explain, but my words vanished into the heavy air. Haley had won another round, but she didn't stop there. One afternoon, I came home late after track practice. The moment I opened the basement door, I felt rooted to the spot. My laptop lay shattered on the floor. The screen cracked wide open. The keyboard bent as if stomped on. Years of data, essays, college application materials, destroyed. I rushed upstairs to find Haley. She was sitting in the kitchen, sipping tea, looking at me calmly. Digital things aren't always reliable, are they? Hope you had backups of your work. Her words were light as air, but the cold glint in her eyes sent a chill through me. From that day, my life felt like it was sliding into a deep chasm. School, once my safe haven, became filled with rumors. Someone I knew, it was Haley, spread stories that I abused my sick sister, that I was jealous of the attention she received. Friends gradually drifted away. Pitying, judgmental eyes followed me down the hallways. The hands that used to wave now stayed hidden behind backs. At lunch, the table that once overflowed with friends now stood empty. It didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I received an email from Colombia. We have received an anonymous report regarding your conduct toward a terminally ill family member. Before finalizing your admission, we must investigate this matter. I read it over and over, my hands shaking. An anonymous report. I didn't need to ask who was behind it. But Haley had done it so cleverly, I had no proof to accuse her. That night, I sat at a borrowed old computer from the library, retyping my essays from memory, tears falling onto the keyboard. Inside, I wasn't afraid anymore, only determined. I had to reclaim justice for myself. And this time, I wouldn't let Haley keep dragging me down with her charade. I knew the road ahead would be full of obstacles, but I had no choice but to move forward. I started planning. That first night, when the house was asleep, I quietly slipped into the garage and found the tiny voice recorders Dad had once used on a construction project. I wiped off the dust, checked the batteries, and began hiding them around the house, under the table, behind the bookshelf, behind the photo frame on the mantel. Every spot I chose was somewhere Haley liked to spend time, where she often made calls or chatted with friends over video. Day by day, I checked the devices, changed their positions, charged the batteries, saved the files to an external drive. At night, when the house was silent, I put on my headphones and sat at the old laptop, listening to conversations Haley never knew were being recorded. And slowly, the truth began to emerge. I heard her giggle on the phone, boasting to friends about how she had Mom and Dad completely fooled, repeating over and over how I was getting easier to predict and manipulate. Some nights, she even mimicked Mom's crying voice, then burst into laughter. All I have to do is cough twice and Mom's hugging me. And Elle? The second she opens her mouth, she gets scolded. I trembled, tears streaming down my face, but my hands stayed steady as I saved each recording to multiple online storage accounts. This time, Haley wouldn't be able to erase the evidence, like she had with my laptop. I knew I needed an ally. The first person who came to mind was Aunt Carol, the only one in the family who had ever openly doubted Haley. When we were little, I remembered Haley making up a story about winning the school's spelling bee, but Aunt Carol had called her out because that school had never held such a competition. I waited until lunch break the next day at school, sneaking out to call Aunt Carol from a payphone near the parking lot. Each ringing tone made my heart tighten. Mrs. Carol speaking. That warm voice nearly made me burst into tears. I told her everything, pouring out all the pain and loneliness I'd carried for so long. On the other end, she listened in silence, only sighing or whispering, "Oh my God," from time to time. When I finished, she spoke firmly, "I'll be there this weekend. I won't let you face this alone, Elle." 2 days later, Aunt Carol's old pickup truck pulled up in front of our house. She stepped out with a box of cookies, her gentle smile softening my mom's heart enough to invite her in without suspicion. All morning, she chatted, asked Haley questions, complimented her on her strength, but I saw how Aunt Carol's eyes never stopped watching every move, every word. I knew she was observing her closely. By noon, using the excuse of helping me organize my basement room, she pulled me aside. When the door closed, her gaze turned resolute. "Show me what you have." I opened the laptop, playing the recordings, showing the notes, the screenshots of anonymous posts I'd traced back. Aunt Carol sat silently, her face tense. When she heard the part where Haley mimicked Mom crying, she placed a hand on my shoulder and gave a gentle squeeze. "I believe you, and I think it's time we act." All afternoon, we worked together, drafting a detailed plan. Aunt Carol helped me organize the evidence into a clear, easy-to-follow file. She promised to reach out to an old friend who was a lawyer to get advice on how to handle this legally and convincingly. Gratitude filled my heart as our eyes met. It had been months since I felt anything but alone in the storm of lies Haley had spun. But not anymore. That night, our house was filled with a strange atmosphere, quiet, yet tense, like a still lake before a storm. Dinner was set on the table. Mom's stew, the salad Aunt Carol prepared, and some crispy toast. But no one touched a bite. Aunt Carol set her small leather bag beside her chair, giving me a brief look that said, "It's time." Mom sat down, exhausted, her hands clasped tightly while Dad poured water, avoiding everyone's eyes. Haley came in last, still looking frail, draping a thin scarf over her shoulders. She sat down and forced a weak smile. "Aunt Carol, thank you for coming. I know you always care about our family." Aunt Carol answered gently but firmly, "That's right, Haley. And because I care, I brought something today that we all need to see clearly." Haley paused. I saw her lips press tight for a split second before stretching into a strained smile. Aunt Carol opened her bag, pulled out the laptop, and set it on the table. "Before anyone says anything, I ask that we all listen and watch this first. Then we can decide what to think." The screen lit up, and that familiar voice filled the room. Haley's. Every word from the recordings I'd collected played in the silence. All I have to do is cough, and Mom panics. The more Elle struggles, the easier she is to control. My friends say I act better than anyone on TV. It's really not hard. Just need a few fake tears. Mom's eyes widened, her hand trembling as she held her spoon. Dad's face turned pale, his gaze locked on the screen as if searching for a different explanation. But the proof didn't stop there. Aunt Carol showed the photos, the short video clips. Haley rehearsing the speech in the mirror, laughing as she mimicked Mom crying, even texting friends about how Elle is probably about to lose her mind. Haley shot up, her face red, her voice cracking. That's enough. What are you doing? This is an invasion of privacy. Elle, did you set me up? The air felt heavy. Mom burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. Dad stayed silent, but his hand clenched into a fist. Haley, Aunt Carol said, still calm. Do you have anything to say? Haley's eyes darted wildly, her breathing quick. Then suddenly, she slammed her hand on the table, the sound like thunder. This is all because of Elle. She's always the one who gets praised, who's loved. I just wanted to be seen, to be the one people cared about for once. Haley's fury exploded. She lunged at me, grabbing my shoulders and shoving me hard enough that I hit the wall. Mom rushed to stop her, but Haley struggled, her nails scratching Mom's arm, leaving red marks. Blood dripped onto the pristine white tablecloth, spreading like bright red flowers. That sight seemed to snap everyone out of it. Dad jumped up, pulled Haley back, gripping her shoulders tightly. Stop it, Haley. You need help. You can't go on like this. Aunt Carol had already called 911 when it all started. Her voice stayed steady as she gave the address and explained the situation to the dispatcher. It wasn't long before the ambulance and police arrived. Mom's wound was treated and bandaged carefully. As for Haley, she no longer fought back. She just sat on the floor, sobbing, her tears too late and full of confusion. The medics gently encouraged the family to agree to have Haley taken to a mandatory treatment facility. They explained softly that this was the first step to getting her the right kind of help. As the ambulance doors closed, I stood on the porch, watching the vehicle disappear beyond the trees. The night wind blew cold, but it felt cleaner than ever. After that chaotic night, our small house became strangely quiet. There were no more sounds of Haley's footsteps in the hallway, no more fake coughs, no more whispered phone calls in the middle of the night. Only the ticking of the clock, the wind slipping through the door cracks, and long silences as my family began to face the truth and heal our wounds. My mom spent many nights crying softly. Dad grew even quieter, often sitting on the porch, staring at the backyard where the bike had been crushed all those years ago. I knew he was remembering all the signs he had once overlooked. A few weeks later, on a pale sunny morning, I received a call from Colombia. The voice on the other end was warm and kind. We've reviewed your additional file, including the evidence and confirmation letter from your family's attorney. We are delighted to welcome you this fall, Elle. Congratulations. I set the phone down on the table, tears rolling down my cheeks. This time, tears of relief. After everything, my dream was still intact. My family began rebuilding our life. Dinners were no longer tense. Mom asked about my college plans, and Dad shared stories from his youth, tales I thought he had forgotten. Each night, we washed dishes together, cleaned up, and slowly learned how to be a family again. As for Haley, she started long-term therapy at a psychological support center in a neighboring state. News of her came through doctors and social workers. Early sessions full of tears, outbursts of anger, then quieter days. She began to face herself and tame the chaotic emotions that had consumed her and everyone around her for years. 3 months passed, and I received Haley's first letter from the treatment center. Her handwriting was as soft as ever, but this time, the words were no longer fake. Elle, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I'm trying. I know I've ruined so much, hurt you deeply. If I could, I'd like to start again, even if it's just with a hello. I finished reading the letter, folded it, and set it in my desk drawer, without replying right away. My heart was a swirl of emotions, but at least I knew a part of her had truly begun to change. In the months that followed, we kept in light contact. At first, a few lines checking on each other's health. Then, as I began my first semester at Columbia, she sent emails asking about classes about New York City. No more hidden jabs, no more loaded remarks, just sincere, awkward, but honest questions. I learned to respond with caution, but not cruelty. A message of thanks for asking, an email saying I'm doing fine. And little by little, those small exchanges became a fragile thread, reconnecting us after years of brokenness. During my first winter break, Haley was allowed to visit home for 2 days under a therapist's supervision. That dinner, no one mentioned the past. She helped Mom peel potatoes, helped Dad light the fireplace. I watched every move, my heart filled with doubt, but also a fragile hope. When she left, we shook hands, an awkward handshake, but more genuine than all the fake hugs of the past. Time went on. Haley continued therapy, started community classes, and worked part-time at the local library. Our relationship wasn't perfect. Sometimes I still hesitated to open up, still set boundaries on trust. But I understood that rebuilding takes more than apologies. It takes time, patience, and a bit of courage to face your own fears. And I began to believe sometimes the cracks in a relationship aren't just to remind us of what broke, but to let the light in. Looking back on the journey, I realized true strength isn't in exposing others, but in standing up for yourself and opening your heart to hope, no matter how fragile. My family wasn't the perfect picture I dreamed of as a child, but we learned to be honest, to set boundaries, and to love with clarity. Haley is still on her path to healing, and I'm learning to forgive. Not to forget, but to ease my own heart and live fully. Elle has been through a stormy journey to protect her dream and help heal her family. What do you think about Elle's story and how she confronted those wounds? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to follow the channel for more touching stories about family and resilience.